Audi Sport story began in the late 1970s as its engineers worked on a revolutionary new super coupe that would transform the world of rallying and high-performance road cars forever. Join Toby Moody, an early 10-valve Quattro, and I in Cadwell Park's scrutineering shed as we take up the story. Well, Toby, I think it's fair to say, as we're stood next to this glorious, very early quad headlamp 10-valve Quattro, that we're next to perhaps one of the most important vehicles in the history of performance road cars and motorsport, and perhaps even beyond that.
You've got safety innovations like seatbelt, disc brakes, ABS brakes, hands device in motorsport nowadays, four-wheel drive. This was the birthplace. It started here.
Indeed, and I think it's also fair to say that perhaps before our time, nobody would have associated Audi as a brand with a high-performance car, and in fact, a motorsport program. And the fact that this car came about is due in part to one Ferdinand Piëch. Now, of course, at one end of his career, he's Mr. Porsche 917, and at the other, he's Mr. Bugatti Veyron. And somewhere in the middle, there's this car.
They didn't really move the goalpost with this. With hindsight, they hit the ball.
Everything that we've come to love in all the decades since, that turbocharged four-wheel drive, hot hatches, and those kind of things, they all go back to this car. The birth of the Quattro is attributed to Audi engineer Jörg Benzinger. At the time, Volkswagen had tasked Audi engineers with developing a four-wheel drive military vehicle, a kind of German Jeep, later known as the Volkswagen Eltis. However, the four-wheel drive system in an Audi 80 immediately showed the potential. The key was the distribution of the engine's torque. Quattro incorporated a hollow output shaft from gearbox to the differential, with another shaft running inside that, taking drive to the front axle. A further prop shaft from the centre diff rearwards took the drive to the rear pair of wheels. This lighter, more compact system was then placed into the Audi 80-based GT, a sleek but square-jawed coupe, and combined with a newly turbocharged version of Audi's muscly 2.2-litre 5-cylinder engine. Blister the wheel arches, add a front air dam and a boxy rear wing, and there you have it, the Quattro, unveiled at the 1980 Geneva Motor Show. Meanwhile, Audi had innocently suggested that the rallying rules should be changed to include four-wheel drive cars, and so the Quattro was a homologation special for the Group 4 category. A legend was born. I'm not sat here thinking this is some old museum piece. I'm thinking, oh my word, in 1980 to drive one of these must have been absolutely outrageous. I can tell you now, it's flipping brilliant. I've driven Quattros before, but only the later 20-valve car. That's known for being obviously more powerful, but more refined as well, and it's a more polished product. That 10-valve motor is just, it's gritty, it's gnarly, it's enthusiastic. Look how quick it is still. On the right road in the right conditions, I mean, this car would give a 911 turbo an incredibly hard time. You'd need a really good driver in a 4-speed 911 turbo to be able to keep in front of one of these on a wet road. That's for sure. I am absolutely in love with this car. It's actually incredibly deft, and it's so kind of delicate. Didn't expect that. Yes, there's a lot of body roll, and the outright grip levels, they're fairly low. You would expect that, wouldn't you? It would be silly to think anything else. But you can really carry some speed through the corners. And obviously the traction is fantastic. I thought it would plough on horrendously on a circuit with great armfuls of understeer, but it's not the case. It's really got some soul to it. This is a revelation. But I suppose in some ways, right, that's the point, because this car was a revelation. It was a revelation, it was a revolution. It was something that nobody'd seen before. It was a new recipe, and in doing so, it changed the world of performance motoring, it changed rallying, and it became, well, it's more than a car, isn't it? It became a cultural icon. Even today, it's really quite something. Of course, though, in motorsport, nothing ever stays the same. It's always evolving, isn't it? And I think it's fair to say that by the middle of the 80s, Audi was increasingly under pressure from a new breed of rallying supercars.
The other manufacturers were coming. Peugeot were on their way. Ford had something in their pocket. Austin, Rover, Lancia were continuing to push. Nothing was going to stop. But it was beyond that, though, Adam. Is that the crowds were there. There were even more people that wanted a piece of whatever manufacturer was rushing past them on the stages, tarmac or gravel. It was evolving. Group B was big.
And of course, Audi had stuck with very much a production-based car and now had to make changes accordingly to meet that challenge, which brings us to these two incredible vehicles.
The UR Quattro had originally competed in the old-style Group 4 category, but when the FIA announced the Group B rules, it was soon clear that a conventional road car-based entry would be at a distinct disadvantage. Audi Sport needed to think radically. It needed more power and more agility. Audi Sport chopped 32 centimetres from the wheelbase, creating a bizarre, ugly but beautiful monster of gaping vents, blistered arches and latent menace.
That noise! I honestly think it might be one of the coolest road cars ever made. The thing about this car is, yeah, the older Quattros, they're quick and they're amusing, but this is a really serious bit of kit, even now, all these decades later. You sit a lot higher than you do in the standard Quattro, and although it does have rear seats, because it's so shortened, they're pretty useless. It's got mod cons, it's got half leather and heated seats, but it's got wind-up windows. It's an endlessly fascinating car. The idea of that lovely, lusty, slightly lazy inline 5 that you get in the Quattro. Oh no, that's gone. That's gone. I press the pedal at 3,000. Yeah, it pulls a bit, but not to a way that is going to set your hair on fire. But then I come out here, look, 4, now it's 5. Oh, whoa, and now it's 6, and now it's absolutely flying. It's still got a lot of grip. I mean, for a car from 40 plus years ago. Get back on the power. Oh, look. This must have been an absolute rocket ship in 1984. Once you've got it turned in, wow, it feels a lot more nervous, but it feels a lot more agile, as you'd expect. Shortening the wheelbase did make it a little bit more agile, but in some ways exacerbated the unusual handling characteristics of this car. Power was never a problem, but using that power was a bit more of a challenge. And that's why we're going to see the car that we have a look at and drive next, because that was Audi's response. But in the meantime, the Quattro Sport remains an absolute headbanger. Unfortunately for Audi, the Sport Quattro was not the answer they were looking for in the WRC. It was brutally powerful but difficult to drive, and it was soon clear that the evolution option built into the Group B rule set needed to be taken up, and quickly. the resultant S1E2 must go down in history as one of the most iconic competition cars ever created in any era. Its fame undimmed to this day. The engineers moved the radiators to the rear to improve weight distribution and fully embraced the art of aerodynamics for the first time. Power output soared to 600 horsepower and maybe more. S1E2's competition career was short, much like that of its wheelbase, but its finest hour was Walter Rule's victory in the 1985 San Remo Rally.
Holy moly! Third gear, tap of the brakes, a little bit of understeer, go!
Oh, once you get on the boost, you can feel the four-wheel drive system is like, yeah, okay, I'm under the ground, and it tugs at you, it bites you.
I was on RAC 1985 and I remember this car coming towards me. I'm not just saying that, I remember it coming towards me because it was a Quattro.
That's coming out that corner at San Remo.
And I'm reading the notes.
Another one where he drifts it round.
100 into 3 left, opens.
Yeah, go on, Christian. Come on, give me some notes.
Into 3 right, continues long. I am Giesdorfer. I am Belander. Can you imagine the people on the hillsides, in the road, waving at you? Oh dear, oh dear.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my.
I honestly have lost for words. And I never want this to end.
It only weighs just under 1,100 kilos. Speed is nothing new, but stopping and going round corners is. Just remember today, because I'll ring you in 40 years' time and say, when we're old gits, go, do you remember when?
I don't think my ears will have recovered. I gotta tell you, I know it's difficult if you were going really quickly, and honestly, the idea of going quickly on gravel blows my mind. I just can't. But around here, at the pace we're going, it is so nice to drive. It is so ultra community through the steering, through the pedals, through the gear shift, through the seat you're paddling through the seat.
All the best refined motorsport cars are just that. You've summed it up yourself. If it's good in motorsport, it usually just is good, and it flatters people, and they can instantly get to kind of about there. But Walter and Stig and Hannu and Michelle made the difference. That's why they're the best in the world.
When they rallied it, they had a lot. There's no way you only have to look at that footage. There's no way the way those cars accelerate that they've got anywhere near 500. That is a much bigger number. And honestly, I cannot get my head around that. One more go, one more blast. Here we go.
Go on then. There's not many modern day cars that give you a kick in the back like that.
What a privilege. One of the greatest moments of my working life. INNY18 is the very car Stig Blomqvist drove on the type's debut in the 1985 1000 Lakes, and also the car that Walter drove on the 85 RAC, complete at the time with newfangled PDK transmission, and a young Toby stood roadside that day. I still have that 5-cylinder ringing in my ears, and I'm not sure it'll ever leave, and nor do I ever want it to. The explosive top-end power of that car, the sensitivity of every major control, the sheer challenge of driving it, and the thought of the legends who once sat in that seat. Audi's time at rallying's top level was through. It withdrew during the 1986 season, yet it had made its point with a museum full of silverware. Now, a new challenge awaited on both the road and the track.